How was that first interaction with Victor? Like, was that maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, when you first introduced yourself, kind of let him know about the league or anything like that? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the player's in a club and he's owned by another club, so we don't ever make contact with the player. But there's agencies that help you go. If you have interest, you can find out information. You watch the player several times, and I think that starts to build where, hey, maybe this guy, you can find out when his contract is up. Maybe the timing works for when we're looking at that position. So those are things you have to look a little bit behind the scenes. So he's one of those that you always keep in the back of your mind, like, he's a good player, and let's see what happens in the future.
His potential is there. It's always been. He had a rough season with Sporting Gijón last season. Were you kind of hoping that here he would be able to redeem that potential?
I mean, when you look at players, he's been in a lot of clubs that they either just moved up to La Liga or they're in the bottom of La Liga. So it's sometimes very difficult to be one of the best players or the best player on a team that's not winning. And you look at their year last year, they either had 0 or 1 goals almost every game. They had a 2-goal game like once in the last 6 months. So that is difficult, and you're playing Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid and Valencia and Sevilla and these giant clubs, and you're taking probably a defensive approach for most games. So as an attacking player, sometimes that can be frustrating. And in saying that, he still had moments where he stood out, and you could see, like, hey, this guy's keeping the team alive. So those are the types of guys that now maybe he's in a team coming here that has aspirations to win, that maybe all that's going to come out. That's our hope.
I mean, you kind of answered this, but how do you judge character? It's easy to judge character when something egregious happens on the field, but I mean in terms of just because you've hit the mark. You guys on Pillars, you bring in a good player, good guy. How do you judge in that, and who do you talk to? I mean, you're not going to go to Twitter and find out, but how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think character, when you can get to the point you can talk to the player, but I think talking to people around him, former players who played with them, agents, reporters, people around the club, I think you have to look at every angle, and you can find out some information. And then you obviously, when you see him on the field, you look at things, the off the ball, how he reacts with his teammates, how he reacts with his coach. There's little subtle things that you can look for. So I think you just try and gather as much information as you can just to make a better decision.
How much effort have you guys put in terms of the onboarding when the player comes here as an organization, through the years, and how you refine that, picking him up, finding a place for him, and all of that as an organization? That seems to be an integral part of that, and you guys have been really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to bring a player to the Pacific Northwest and the Seattle area just because it's so beautiful here, so that sells itself. Our fans help sell the club, but I think we have a lot of people working behind the scenes to help them with some of the details. Gene Ramirez has been great for us, and he can translate with the Spanish guys. He can help them with driver's license, getting settled when they first come into town. Grant Clark and his staff in team administration, they are constantly working with guys on visas and green cards. And I think all of that together and the work from everyone at the club, and as we grow, that social welfare officer, that will be a job that will come into our league and be more prevalent, because it's very important to acclimate as fast as possible, and sometimes you have a family and babies and schools to deal with, so there's a lot of things that go way beyond playing soccer.
Chris, where do you see him fitting in best on the field with this team?
I mean, I think he can play anywhere in the band of three. He can play. I've seen him play all three, actually. So, he's comfortable on the ball. He's not afraid to get between the lines in the little gaps where it's crowded and you need to be sharp, and technique has to be sharp. So, he's very comfortable on the ball, and I think that will, wherever he's put on the field and Brian uses him, I think he'll do fine.
So once he steps on the field, your consultation of where the player should go, you leave that to Brian. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the coaches are the ones who have to make the players perform and improve the players. And we have a fantastic staff, and I think we do a good job in collaboration. You know, I sit in some of the coaching meetings, they sit in some of the scouting meetings. So I think having decisions as a group is something that's made us a success since '09.